Hey guys, this is Miss Owens, and I am going to be teaching you your poetry unit. And we are so excited to get started with this. It is our newest reading skill, and poetry always seems to be a lot of people's favorites. It's fun, it's catchy, it has rhythm, and a lot of people like to create their own poetry also. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with this unit, and it's gonna be super different than learning in the classroom, but we are going to be successful with it, and I cannot wait to see how well you guys do. So the things you're going to need today for our unit on poetry are your reading or your reading skill notebook and a pencil. That's all you need today, because day one is just our vocabulary, and that's what we always do in the classroom also, and so we're going to keep it as similar as possible to the classroom. So once you get your reading notebook or your reading skill notebook and a pencil, go ahead and open up to your table of contents. And every class I know is on a different page number, but your title for your table of contents is going to be poetry. So go ahead and type that or write that in your table of contents, and go ahead and turn to that page also in your notebook so that you have your page titled also. It's going to be poetry. You can click pause here on this video so that you can do this and you don't have to try to keep up with me. But be sure that you have it spelled correctly. It's right here for you so that we can always use this as our reference. After you've labeled your page and your table of contents with the word poetry, we're going to write the definition. It says, what is poetry? Poetry is a collection of words that express an emotion or idea, sometimes with a specific meaning, sound, or rhythm. That means that poetry is a bunch of words. It doesn't have to be a lot, and it also doesn't have to be little. A lot of times people think that poems have to be short, but sometimes poems can actually be really long. It just depends on the author and what the poet wants to express. And they have their emotions that they want to express, so that's how you feel, or their ideas, like we do. And sometimes they have a specific meaning, like they're writing only about a dog, or they're only writing about a cat. And they have a certain sound or a tone. So, how does this poem make you feel? Does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel sad? Does it sound like something you would say to your mom and dad? And then rhythm. And I know you all know what rhythm is because Miss Avery teaches you about rhythm and music. It's the beat that you can hear. So go ahead and write down your definition for what is poetry in your notebooks now. You can pause this video here so that you can write down your definition on the same page, and you can go ahead and type it or write it right underneath your word poetry at the top of your notebook. Now, once you've done that, and you've written down your word poetry and what poetry truly is, turn or stay on the same page as I turn, and we have our tree map, and this is our elements of poetry tree map. And you guys know what a tree map is. We use it in class often. So a tree map is our way of sorting things. So I took the 4 major elements of poetry and I sorted them into different categories. So on your page, go ahead and write down elements of poetry at the top, and go ahead and draw your tree map with your 4 branches. Here's your first branch, and you have the word rhythm underneath it. Everyone say rhythm. Then we have our next branch. This is the word rhyme. Everyone say the word rhyme. Then you have your next branch. This is the word line. Everyone say the word line. And then we have our last branch, and this is probably one of my favorite words because it sounds so cool. Stanza. Everyone say stanza. You can pause your video here so that you can Be sure to copy down your tree map correctly. Elements of poetry. Elements means the different parts of a poem or poetry. And our very first one we're going to look at is rhythm. And rhythm, you guys have learned, I know, with Miss Avery in music, and it's the musical quality and the beat of something. So for example, down here, I put the poem or the rhyme, I'm a Little Teapot. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard this before, but it's I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. You notice that there is definitely a rhythm there and that there was a beat. Those all went together and they flowed very nicely together. There's also some other things that we're going to come over here and notice in a minute. It says, when I get all steamed up, hear me shout, tip me over and pour me out. And so rhythm is our very first element of poetry. I will say not every poem has rhythm. Some poems can just be a few words. So every poem truly is different. Pause the video right here so that you can record down rhythm and just what rhythm is, the musical quality and the beat. You don't have to write down I'm a little teapot unless you just really want to. Give an example. Our next element of poetry is rhyme. And rhyme is what we have been doing since kindergarten. Rhyming words are words that had the same ending sound. So for example, if you've ever read Cat in the Hat, oh my goodness, a lot of his books have rhyming words. Like cat and hat, they both end with the at sound. What about this one? We have male and whale. They both have the ale sound at the ends. We have egg and leg. Egg and leg both have the same ending sound. So a lot of times poems have rhyming words. Doesn't mean that every poem has to have rhyming words. It doesn't, and that's a huge misconception. People a lot of times think, well, it has to have rhyming words to be a poem, but that's just not true. Sometimes it can have rhyming words and sometimes it doesn't. Pause your video right here so you can write down the word rhyme and our definition of rhyme, and go ahead and draw one of these examples. Our next element of poetry is line. And a line is exactly what you think it is. It's where each line of the text ends in the poem. We actually know lines and look at lines from when we're reading and doing read to achieve or RTAs. And so we count the lines sometimes then, and sometimes your teacher may say, point to the line. It's the same exact thing. Here's our poem, I'm a Little Teapot, and I highlighted a line for you. I'm a little teapot. If I said highlight the fourth line, I would count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I could highlight that fourth line right there. If I said which line says tip me over, I would count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Line number 7 says tip me over. You do not have to write the example unless you would like to. And pause the video here so you can write down your word line and the definition. Our last element of poetry that we're going to do today is the word stanza, my favorite word. And that's when you have a group of lines within a poem that's followed by a space. So a stanza is when you have a whole section put together. If you notice our poem right here, I'm a Little Teapot, these, I'm going to change colors for us real quick. These are all grouped together. And then down here, these are all grouped together. That means that this has 2 stanzas. I'm going to erase it one more time so I can show you what I mean by that. Say erase. It'll let me. There we go. So I'm going to point right here with my arrow. Here is stanza 1, and here is stanza 2. So you can always count the number of stanzas, kind of like the connection would be in a story. You have paragraphs, but in a poem, you have stanzas. And you can pause the video right here to write down what a stanza is, and then write down the definition. Now, once we've learned our 4 elements of poetry, you should have this tree map with your 4 new vocabulary words, a title, and the definition of each vocabulary word, and even maybe some examples underneath it in your reading skill notebook. Just a reminder, one of our biggest common misconceptions, that means things that we think's true, they're really not, is that not all poems have to rhyme. That is a big thing. A lot of times we think poems have to rhyme, and they definitely don't. And we're going to be learning about some of those poems, not today, but this week, so that we can see which type of poems rhyme and which ones don't. And we're going to be creating some of those poems. Tomorrow, we are going to be looking at different poems, and we're actually going to practice identifying the different parts of the poem. So we're going to look at the lines and the stanzas and some rhyming words in a poem tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and I hope that you all have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye.